Welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Today, we are going to discuss the Hindu newspaper dated 12 February 2018. Let's begin. On page number 1, we see this news: government ignoring the plight of children, as said by Supreme Court. Let's understand what the Supreme Court has said with respect to implementation of Juvenile Justice Act 2015. So what is the news in this case? A PIL was filed in the Supreme Court for the implementation of the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015 and its various rules. The Supreme Court, while hearing a petition, criticized the government for their negligence and non-implementation of the Act. The Supreme Court further said that the government, through its non-implementation of the Act, has ignored the plight of voiceless and, if not, silenced children of India. The Supreme Court also advised the government to act strongly and proactively for the betterment of children, as children are also the citizens of India and enjoy equal fundamental rights and other basic human rights as guaranteed by the Constitution and other laws of the country. And in this regard, the Supreme Court has given various directions to the government, both at the center as well as at the state level, to implement the Justice Juvenile Care Act so as to improve the conditions of the children. Let's see what are the directions given by the Supreme Court. In order to implement the judgment, the Supreme Court has given various directions so as to implement the various provisions of the Act, and in this respect has directed the Ministry of Women and Child Development and all state governments to fill various vacant posts in the National and State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, Juvenile Justice Board and Child Welfare Committees. In this respect, the Supreme Court has also requested the Chief Justices of all High Court to register proceedings on their own for better implementation of Justice Juvenile Act. And in this respect, the Supreme Court has also requested the Chief Justices of all High Courts to seriously consider establishing child-friendly courts and vulnerable witness courts. As we all know that witness is very important in any case to establish a crime. Thus, Supreme Court has asked the Chief Justice of all High Courts to establish child-friendly courts and vulnerable witness courts in each district. Now, Children's Court means a court established under Commission for Protection of Child Rights Act 2005 or a special court under Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012, also known as POXCO Act. Now, after understanding what the Supreme Court has said, let us understand why this Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015 was enacted. Now, this act was enacted to consolidate and amend the law relating to children alleged and found to be in conflict with law. Now, what does this conflict of law means? The term "the children in conflict with the law" refers to anyone who is under 18 years of age and who comes in contact with the justice system as a result of being suspected or accused of committing an offence. Most children in conflict with the law have committed petty crimes or such minor offences, including begging and alcohol usage. Too often, prejudice related to race, ethnicity, or social or socio-economic status may bring a child into conflict with the law, even when they have not committed any crime. It may also result by harsh treatment by law officers. Thus, the JJ Act aims to consolidate and amend the law relating to children alleged and found to be in conflict with the law and children in need of care and protection by catering to their basic needs through proper care, protection, development, treatment, social reintegration, by adopting a child-friendly approach in the adjudication and disposal of matters. Thus, this law aims for the best interest of the children and for their rehabilitation through process provided by the Act and through various institutions or bodies established under the Act, such as the Juvenile Justice Board. Now, as per the JJ Act 2015, the state government shall constitute for every district one or more juvenile justice boards for exercising the powers and discharging its function relating to children in conflict with law under the Act. Thus, the Act provides for the establishment of a Juvenile Justice Board. Now, this topic becomes important as this topic deals with social issue and importantly rights of children and also talks about their basic human needs. Thus, this topic becomes important both from your prelims as well as mains point of view. In mains, questions can be asked regarding the implementation of Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, and also questions can be asked with respect to suggestions so as to improve the implementation of the said act, as the Supreme Court in its judgment has directed state government as well as the central government to implement rigorously this particular act for the protection of children. Now, this act also derives its constitutional validity through Article 15, Clause 3, which states, nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any special provision for women and children. Thus, this becomes an important topic. Now, let's move on to the next news. The next news appears on page number 7. The news reads, Centralist steps to end workplace harassment. Now, this news is related to steps taken by the central government to ensure that sexual harassment at workplace are prevented, and workplace also includes both public offices as well as private offices. Let's see what are the steps taken by the central government. So in this news, the central government has informed the Supreme Court of the various steps taken by it to prevent sexual harassment at workplace. In this respect, it has urged business associations like ASSOCHAM or Associated Chambers of Commerce of India and FICCI, that is Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Thus, the central government has asked both ASSOCHAM and FICCI to help in ensuring effective implementation of this particular law, namely Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. And in this respect, the Supreme Court has also urged the government and private players to organize workshops and awareness program in each and every industry, business house and other offices in the private sector. And in this respect, an online complaint management system called Sexual Harassment Electronic Box or SHE-Box is being developed to register complaints of sexual harassment at workplace online. So a preliminary question can be asked with respect to SHE-Box. 4 options can be given and one of the options could be to register online complaints against sexual harassment at workplace. Thus this SHE-Box becomes an important piece of information with respect to your prelims examination. Now let's understand certain basic ingredients about this Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act. The 2013 Act provides for protection against sexual harassment of women at workplace, as well as for prevention and redressal of complaints of sexual harassment. Now these two, that is protection against sexual harassment of women at workplace and prevention and redressal of complaints, along with the right to work with dignity for women, are universally recognized human rights through Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and this was ratified by the Government of India in June 1993. The word sexual harassment as well as workplace has been defined in this particular act. As we can see, sexual harassment includes any one or more of the following unwelcome acts or behavior, whether directly or by implication, namely physical contact and advances, or a demand or request for sexual favors, or making sexually colored remarks, or showing pornography, or any other unwelcome physical, verbal or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. So anything coming within this aspect will come under the concept of sexual harassment. And as we can see, workplace includes both public offices as well as private offices, and it also includes a dwelling house, and further includes hospitals or nursing homes, sports institutes, stadium, etc., and any place visited by the employee arising out of during the course of employment. All these comes within the concept of workplace, and even unorganized sector or offices in the unorganized sector also comes within the concept of workplace. Thus, it becomes important to understand both the concept of sexual harassment as well as workplace, as questions can be asked with respect to prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. Now, another thing important to remember in this news is that this Sexual Harassment Act provides for 2 committees for registering of complaints. One is the internal committee and other is the local committee. Now this internal committee shall be constituted at the administrative units of the office. So any office either in the government or in the private sector can constitute an internal committee, whereas a local committee shall be constituted by the government in every district to receive complaints on sexual harassment. This become very important from your both prelims as well as mains point of view, as the issue of sexual harassment at workplace is an important topic with respect to social justice. Now let's move on to the next news. Now we come to page number 8 on the editorial section. Here the news reads, States of Health. Now in this editorial, as per the Niti Aayog's Health Index report, the top 3 states in overall performance are Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Punjab. Whereas the states which are lacking behind or in the bottom list are Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Bihar, Odisha, and Madhya Pradesh. This particular health index is providing rankings to all states based on their health indicators. And we know health is under entry 6 of state list of the 7th schedule of the Constitution of India. And the ability of the state to meet sustainable development goals or the third sustainable development goals totally depends on the performance of these states or respective states on the health front. As you can see in this SDG 1 talked about ending poverty in all its form. SDG 2 talked about ending hunger, achieving food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Whereas SDG 3, that is Sustainable Development Goals 3, is about ensuring healthy lives and promote well-being of all ages. Thus, it totally depends on the performance of different states how India achieves these Sustainable Development Goal 3, which provides to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being of all ages. Now, this health index nudges the states by encouraging a competitive approach among states so as to achieve a better outcome. Some of the metrics used in the health indexes are institutional deliveries, systematic reporting of TB, immunization levels, out-of-pocket expenses, etc. Now, this news of health index has been covered by Maharshi ma'am on 10th February 2018. To better understand this entire concept of health index, please refer to her DNS dated 10th February 2018. Now let us understand how this competitive approach among states will help in achieving a better outcome and also help in achieving this particular SDG third goal. Now the aim of the health index is not only to provide health index of different states but also to bring health in the mainstream of Indian policy making. This will not only encourage a state but also start a debate with respect to health parameters in the country. This will lead to improving access to facilities and treatments for proper health care. This competitive approach among states will further encourage states to give qualitative data for measurement of their health index. Thus, through this process, the state government shall ensure that they are collecting serious data from both public as well as private hospitals. Thus, this will effectively help states to improve the working of their health data collection system. This will also motivate both the central government as well as respective state governments to scale up investment in health as a percentage allocated in their respective budgets. This will effectively help in improving the quality of primary and preventive health care. Thus, this news becomes important for your UPSC examination, both from pre as well as mains point of view. It is important to remember the 3 SDG goals as this is often talked about, and mostly the third SDG goals because the Niti Aayog has also come out with a health index for different states. Thus, questions can be asked in prelims regarding these 3 SDG goals as well as about health index. That very simple question like who has come out with the or who has enrolled the health index? The answer would be Niti Aayog. Let's move on to the next news. Now similar news appear on page number 13 and the news reads ministries may discuss government healthcare plan this month. In this news they have talked about a concept known as trust based model as compared to the general insurance model. Let us understand how the government will implement its NHPS or National Health Protection. As we know that the budget 2018-19 provided for a medical cover up to rupees 5 lakh to poor and vulnerable families. Now in this respect, the government is now deliberating or discussing how to implement this particular medical insurance scheme. One of the mode is through a trust-based model, whereas other is through the normal general insurance model. Let's see how this trust-based model works. Here the central as well as the state government forms a trust and both the center as well as the states pool in the money or fund for the medical insurance. Now suppose if a person who is covered under this particular medical cover goes to a hospital and hospital foots a bill of say rupees 3 lakh. Now this trust will settle the claim of the hospital and pay to this particular hospital rupees 3 lakh. Now this is how this trust based model will work. Whereas in the general insurance model would mean that the insurance company will charge the premium in exchange for the insurance policy coverage. Thus, in the trust mode, the trust will be responsible for all the modalities, whereas in the insurance company mode, the insurance company that wins the bid will be in charge to provide such medical cover. This particular news is in transition, so let's wait and watch what the government decides and which type of model it ultimately comes up with for medical cover under NHPS or National Health Protection Scheme. Let's move on to the next news. Now the next news comes on page number 8. Here the news reads, "Let the chip fall where they may." Now this news is about whether India can go for a military intervention in Maldives. So in this article, let us understand why the author has asked the above question and what is his conclusion or what he believes that whether India should go for a military intervention or not in Maldives. The author has suggested that it is not India's role or duty to form democracy in Maldives, as it is for the people of Maldives to decide their own political future for their own state. And in this respect, India should maintain its national interest through diplomatic means. So this begs us the question that what is India's national interest in Maldives? The foremost national interest for India in Maldives is to balance China and not to promote democracy. India's national interest also lies in ensuring that Maldives does not become a client state of China. It is in this respect that India needs to maintain its strategic stronghold in Maldives. India should support democracy but should not enforce it. Thus, in supporting democracy, it is best that democracy is achieved in Maldives by bottoms-up approach with the help of people of Maldives. Now we should understand that why military intervention by India is not possible in the state of Maldives. We know that there is a political crisis, but this political crisis has not resulted in a humanitarian crisis. As there is no humanitarian crisis in Maldives, as there was humanitarian crisis in 1971 in Bangladesh. Another reason that India should not intervene militarily is that South Asia is already a hotbed of political crisis, and military intervention each time by India may complicate the situation further, as Indian intervention might politically strengthen the right-wing groups, which currently are not that much politically dominant. India's military intervention each time may project India's big brotherly attitude. Thus, India should avoid military intervention each time in Maldives. Thus, the author concludes by saying that India does not have a reason for military intervention. So, the focus should be more on diplomatic means to achieve national interest in Maldives. And as discussed, our national interest, that is India's national interest, lies more in balancing China rather than promoting democracy in Maldives. As you know that this particular news is in transition, so let's wait and watch how this situation in Maldives further develop. But for this article, we have gone through whether India can go for military intervention in Maldives and what is India's national interest in Maldives and why military intervention by India seems very unlikely, as it will destabilize the entire geopolity of the region. Thus, this topic becomes very important from your UPSC point of view. And you can answer any question with respect to the current problem going on in Maldives. How should India respond, or what should be India's response with respect to the change which is going on in Maldives. With this, let's move on to the next news. The next news appears on page number 11. The news reads, India-UAE to deepen strategic ties, counter terror. The Prime Minister of India is on a 4-country visit to Palestine, Jordan, UAE or United Arab Emirates and Oman. This news pertains to the Prime Minister's visit to the United Arab Emirates. Thus, this article focuses on India-UAE relations, and in this respect, India and UAE have talked on the following agendas. Those are to conduct naval exercise in the future under the Joint Defence Cooperation Committee framework, to jointly combat international terrorism, India to aid in combating threats to West Asian stability, including cyber threats. India and UAE reiterated its commitment that there is no good or bad terrorism. India and UAE reiterated the adoption of Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. In this respect, UAE Sovereign Wealth Fund ADIA, that is Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, shall participate in India's National Infrastructure Investment Fund for development of ports, logistics, etc. And the Prime Minister of India also laid the foundation of a Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi. Thus, this news sees India-UAE relationships and how India and UAE have committed for a future cooperation. Thus, this news becomes important in the bilateral relations of India and UAE. This news also becomes important for your IR section of UPSC. With this, we come to an end to today's DNS. Let's move on to the question for the day.